So, I've been reading the Communist Manifesto, and one thing that stands out immediately is how accurate Marx is in identifying the economic dynamics of his time. Even if you don't agree with Marx's conclusions, it's hard to deny that he was spot on about the concentration of wealth among a small elite who own the means of production. This observation is as relevant today as it was in the 19th century. Marx's analysis finds modern echoes in the populist rhetoric of politicians like Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, though they come from very different ideological perspectives. Both tap into this widespread concern about economic inequality, a central theme in Marx's writing. Sanders, for instance, focuses on the struggles of the working class, whereas Trump channels frustration about industries being offshored and the lack of security for the average worker. The point is, whether it's 1848 or 2024, we're still grappling with many of the same economic questions. Who controls wealth? Who benefits from the current system? And what happens to those left behind? While Marx's solution, revolution, and the abolition of private property might not resonate with everyone, his critique of capitalism still holds a lot of weight in today's discussions. In today's economic landscape, one thing that rings true is the importance of having a backup plan. Whether we're talking about individuals or governments, it's clear that nothing is guaranteed. Industries evolve, jobs are automated or outsourced, and entire sectors can be upended overnight by technological advancements. This uncertainty means that we, as individuals, are often left to fend for ourselves in a system where the wealthy and powerful have the advantage. The challenge is finding security in an unpredictable world, a sentiment that aligns with what we see in both left-wing and right-wing populism. Each side, in its own way, acknowledges the instability that defines modern capitalism and offers different visions of how to mitigate its effects. Now, let's shift gears to the upcoming debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. This is shaping up to be a major political event. It's fascinating how these debates often become less about actual policy and more about how the candidates present themselves. It's likely that the debate will have no clear winner. Trump's critics often accuse him of rambling or failing to make coherent points, but his supporters will likely continue to back him regardless. Harris, on the other hand, faces the challenge of overcoming a perception gap. While she is the vice president, her political background, especially her time as a prosecutor, has left some voters unsure of her ideological stance. Debates in today's political climate are less about persuading undecided voters and more about reinforcing existing beliefs. As soon as Trump speaks, his supporters will claim victory, while his detractors will dismiss him. The same goes for Harris. Political polarization has reached a point where debates often serve to deepen divides rather than bridge them. An interesting topic that has gained more attention recently is the rise of electric vehicles, EVs. While EVs are praised for their environmental benefits, there are still practical challenges to address. For instance, the heavier weight of EV batteries means we'll need to rethink infrastructure, particularly roads and bridges that weren't designed for such loads. Charging times and access to charging stations are also important factors. It's not just about building more charging stations, but also ensuring that the electrical grid can handle the additional demand. These are the types of nuanced discussions we should be having about the future of transportation, and they mirror the broader tension between innovation and practical implementation. Popularity plays a huge role in elections, but it's not just about who is most liked, it's about who is trusted. For both Trump and Harris, the question isn't just about likability, but about trust. Do people believe that they will do what's best for the country, or are they just the lesser of two evils in the eyes of voters? For Trump, his base trusts him because they see him as an outsider who challenges the establishment. Harris, on the other hand, may face skepticism from progressives due to her past as a prosecutor, but she has the ability to reinvent herself, much like we saw during her rise from California Attorney General to Vice President. Kamala Harris's political career is a fascinating study in reinvention. Despite being relatively unknown to large portions of the country, she has managed to project a carefully curated image that aligns with the Democratic Party's needs. Her flexibility has been key, allowing her to shift positions as needed, particularly on contentious issues like fracking. Her ability to present herself as adaptable and capable of evolving with the times may be a significant factor in her political success. But of course, this also opens her up to criticism for being too flexible or inconsistent. Another important issue that ties into all of this is climate change. Harris, like many politicians, has made statements about the need for drastic changes to address the climate crisis. However, the reality is that achieving zero emissions is far more complicated than most political rhetoric suggests. There's a balance to be struck between environmental responsibility and economic stability, especially when considering that humans are part of a carbon cycle that we can't entirely eliminate. Adaptation is crucial, as is recognizing that the rate of environmental change matters as much as the changes themselves. This brings us to a broader point about humanity's adaptability. Throughout history, humans have demonstrated remarkable resilience in the face of changing conditions. Whether we're talking about climate, technology, or economic systems, humans have consistently found ways to survive and thrive. The current challenges, whether related to climate or economic instability, are no different in that sense. While it's easy to get caught up in worst-case scenarios, it's important to remember that we've adapted to massive shifts before, and will likely do so again. That said, the urgency of addressing economic inequality remains. In today's political landscape, the lines between left and right, progressive and conservative, are increasingly blurred. Politicians like Harris have to navigate a wide range of issues and identities, from her role as a prosecutor to her identity as a woman of color. These factors complicate the traditional political narrative and make it harder to define candidates in simple terms. Harris, for example, has to balance being relatable to a diverse electorate while also maintaining credibility with more progressive elements of her party. This ability to straddle different political identities could be one of her greatest strengths or one of her biggest weaknesses. In a way, political campaigns are less about substance and more about the cultural vibe a candidate projects. Harris and Trump both have distinct personas that resonate with different segments of the electorate. For Trump, it's about defying the political establishment and pushing back against the media. For Harris, it's about embodying the modern, progressive, diverse America that Democrats are trying to cultivate. At the end of the day, elections are won as much on vibes and perceptions as they are on policy. It's about who fits the mold for the moment, and both Trump and Harris are trying to be that person for their respective bases. As we wrap up, it's clear that the political landscape is complex, with economic inequality, climate change, and questions of identity all playing significant roles. Whether it's the enduring relevance of Marx's critique or the modern challenges of EV infrastructure, the issues we face today require thoughtful consideration. Politicians like Trump and Harris may not have all the answers, but they certainly reflect the competing visions for America's future. In the end, it's up to voters to decide which path they believe offers the best hope for navigating these uncertain times.